I'm calling this the Shorty 40. But I haven't used this focal length very much. Normally I shoot super long or super wide. I'm talking about this TTArtisan 40mm f2 lens, now available in L mount. Now in this video, TTArtisan did give me this 40mm lens to test out, and in the past I did a review on their 75mm. They're both f2 lenses. If you're interested in that other video, I will put a link in the description. Hey, it's Marlene. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I've been teaching photography for many years in the classroom and online, but right now I just teach on YouTube for the joy of it. I review products, I shoot Lumix cameras, and I am a birder. I love skateboarding, and I'm learning about astrophotography, which is a huge challenge for me. This lens has a clickable aperture ring, which I know a lot of you love. It also has a detachable lens hood. Now, I'm a lens hood girl. I prefer a lens hood over a protection filter because if I'm on a walkabout, a photo walk, or at a party or something, I like a bit of a physical barrier to the end of the lens. I mean, if you have a filter on there and you bash the filter, it's probably going to bash your lens itself, where I like having a physical barrier on the front of my cameras. Plus, it will help out with flare and will help with contrast in your photos. You can see here that this lens fits lovely on my Lumix S9, and it's a nice compact package. The L-mount version of this lens was released September 26, 2025, and it was previously released for the Nikon Z mount and the Sony E mount. The lens opens up to f2 and it's only $168. Let's have a look at some of my photos and video clips that I've taken over the last month or so, and you can see for yourself what this lens is like. In my tests, I did find that video focusing was quite fast, and I have a clip here that I'm going to show you how I just moved around the frame, and you can see that it picked up focus fairly quickly. Now, if you are into filters, the filter thread size is 52 millimeters. Perhaps you do some landscape photography and you want neutral density, or perhaps a polarizer filter on this. The closest focusing distance is 0.4 meters, which is 1.3 feet, and that's a bit far for me. I prefer a lens that can focus a bit closer, especially if it's a wider angle lens. Now this is kind of a mid-range. It's very similar to a nifty 50, and that's why I call it the Shorty 40. Let's look at some of the pros and cons of this lens. First of all, the pros. It's very affordable for the quality of the lens that you're getting. It's $168 US at the time of this video. It's a fast lens. It's f2, which is lovely to have, especially when you're out and about doing photo walks or shooting indoors at parties and things like that. The build quality is excellent, and its small size and weight make it a joy to carry every day, especially on the Lumix S9. The dedicated aperture ring is the main reason for picking this above similar competitors for the price. I feel that for the price, it's excellent quality. My only issue was that I had to kind of get used to the focal length. I wasn't used to using this 40mm focal length. I typically, when I'm shooting skateboarding, I'm shooting at 24mm or 18mm on full frame. I have the 9mm for my Lumix G9 Mark II, so another wide angle lens. I use those same lenses for Astro. And when I'm birding, I'm using the 100 to 400mm micro four thirds lens. So that mid-range focal length was kind of something new for me to learn. And of course, what do I always say? You got to practice. So I did use this lens for quite a while before making this review, because I kind of had to get over the composition changes that I had to deal with. I had to compose with my feet instead of zooming in and out. But I do love a prime lens, I have to say, because it makes you think a bit more and it forces you to be a bit more creative in the moment. Now there are a few cons, and one of the main ones for me is the closest focusing distance was a bit distant. It's 0.4 meters on the 40mm or 1.3 feet. Now if you compare that to the 18 to 40mm lens, which is also a small lens, but it is a zoom lens, the closest focusing distance on this lens is 0.35 meters at 40mm or 1.15 feet. So it's slightly closer, but this lens also seems a bit like a macro. And if you use it a bit wider than fully on 40mm, you can even get closer to your subject. However, this lens doesn't have a lens hood nor a clickable f-stop ring, and it's slow. It goes from, let's see here, f4.5 at the wide to f6.3 at the telephoto. So at 40mm, you've got f6.3 compared to the TTArtisan, which is f2 all the way. Of course, it's just one focal length. So you have that advantage with the TTArtisan lens, plus this lens costs more. Now you're probably wondering about the optical quality, and I noticed that there is purple fringing on this lens, especially when you go from a white to a darker color or darker foreground to a lighter background, like tree branches. You can see here on the side of this van that we do have some purple fringing. That's something that also can be easily corrected in post-processing, especially if you use Lightroom. It's just a one click on the chromatic aberration tick box, and that cleared up completely. No mussing or fussing. It was one click and it was gone. Overall, though, fringing wasn't a huge issue with this lens. Another sort of con would be that it is not weather sealed, but at this price, I think that is a big ask. If you need a weather sealed lens, you will be paying a premium for it. Oh yes, and the one other thing which really niggles me is that the firmware updates at this point in time are Windows only, and I think if enough Apple people put some pressure on TTArtisan, they will make all their firmware updates to be compatible with Mac computers, because let's face it, probably half the photographers in the world use Mac computers. But if you do have a Windows computer, you will know that the firmware updates for the lens can be connected right through the back lens cap that comes with the camera. So you can see that there are some pins on there. You put this on, you plug it into your USB-C on your Windows computer, download the firmware update from the TTArtisan website and update it directly to the lens from your computer. I'm still trying to figure out a way to do that if I have a Chromebook or something. So if anybody knows if you can do that with a Chromebook, please let me know in the comments, because I'd love to be able to update the firmware of both of my TTArtisan lenses. If you're looking for a sort of normal focal length lens, a shorty 40, I would definitely consider this lens for the price, for the speed of it, and just the overall size and weight. I think it's a good bargain, and I don't think you'll be disappointed, especially if you have a smaller camera and you like to do photo walks with an everyday carry. That's not huge. Overall, I found that I was very impressed with this lens. I kind of got used to the focal length after a while. I mean, I spent a few weeks using it, taking it with me as an everyday carry with the Lumix S9. It is so small and light, easy to carry. You just hang it on your neck and it doesn't cause you strain. So if you're a photographer who's shooting full frame and you want a budget lens, which is fast, I would definitely consider the TTArtisan 40mm f2 lens. Since you're here already, why don't you check out the review I did on the TTArtisan 75mm f2 lens next.